In this video, I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to solve Sudoku puzzles. We're going to start with a 4x4 puzzle which uses symbols, then progress to a 6x6 puzzle, and then move on to a more challenging 9x9 puzzle. At the very end of all these solutions, I'm going to give you some tips on how to make your own Sudoku puzzle. When you have a problem with 4 different symbols, we want to have a look at the grid to see if there are any with only one space. And we can see at the bottom, there are 2 grids here where there's only one space missing. This means we can use the other 3 to figure out what's missing. So in this grid here, this corner, I have a star, a square, and a triangle. So I can see that I have a circle missing. So it's definitely a circle that's missing. If I go along to this grid, I have a triangle, a square, and a circle. So I know that there is a star missing. So I'm just going to check across the rows. Square, triangle, star, circle, square, triangle, circle, star. Now that we've filled this one in, it's given us 3 out of this column. So you see, every time you put a clue in, it might then lead you to another clue. So in this column now, we can see triangle, circle, square. We can see we have a star missing. Okay, we're now left with 4 squares, but in each row and column, there's now 2 spaces. So it's not as simple as using the clues we were a moment ago. We now need to think about what our options are. So if I was looking along this column, I'm missing a circle and a square. Now what I might want to do is write circle and square in at the top. Now I can already see that it can't be a square because there's a square next to it, and each row and column must only have each symbol once. So I can rub out my square. I know it can't be the square, it must be the circle, which then means that this must be the square. That's now led me to only 1 missing in the corner here, and I can use each row. Star, circle, square, this must be a triangle. Triangle, square, star, this must be a circle. And we just check in each grid. Square, triangle, circle, star, circle, square, triangle, star. So each grid is okay there. And that's how you solve it. First, look for where there are spaces where there's only one option. Then go to the places where there may be 2 options. You could jot them down and then have a look to the left, to the right, up and down, and check if you can eliminate any. In this example, we're going to see if we can find any rows, columns, or grids where they have the fewest spaces missing. So for example, in this bottom left grid, we have 2 spaces missing, and in this row, we have 2 spaces missing. And also in this column. So we might want to go along here to see if there's any numbers that we can definitely put in. So for example, if I looked into this grid needs to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 in it. I can see it has the numbers 1 and 5 missing. So I'm writing it in the corner of each grid because 1 and 5 could fit in either of these spaces. We don't know which way round they go. Now, if we look along the row, I can see there's a 1 here, which means there can't be a 1 here. So that means that must be a 5. And actually, if I look at the top row, there's a 5 here, which means the 5 couldn't go there. That means that must be a 1. If I now look along this row, because I filled this in, I've only got 1 gap left, and I can see from the other numbers that the number 2 is missing. Now I can see that's created only 1 gap in this column going up here. And I can see I've got 1, 2, 3, I've got 4, no 5 and a 6. So that must be a 5. Okay, so filling in gaps will lead you to eliminate other possibilities elsewhere. So let's have a look back at the bottom, because there are 2 gaps here. I've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 are missing. Now if I look up, there's nothing that's going to give me any clues, but I'm going to jot down 3 and 4 in the corners to remind me that those are the 2 that I'm trying to find. So let's go somewhere else. Let's go along this column here. I've got 1, 2, 3 is missing. I've got 4 and 5 is missing. So it can only be 3 or 5 here, 3 or 5 here. And if we look along the rows, this can't be a 3 because there's a 3 next to it, which means that must be a 5. And this can't be a 5 because there's a 5 next to it, which means this must be a 3. So we're starting to fill up our gaps now. I'm going to take a look at this row next. I've got the numbers 1 and 6 missing because I have 2, 3, 4 and 5. 1 and 6 are missing, so I could jot them in the corner there. And then if I look up and down here, I can see there's a 6 here, which means this can't be a 6. This must be a 1. And here I can see there's a 1 there, which means that can't be a 1. That's got to be a 6. Okay, I can now see in this grid there's only 1 gap left, and I have 1, 2, 3, no 4. Okay, now that I've put a 4 there, remember we wrote down our 3 and our 4 here earlier. Now there's a 4 there, that's eliminated this being able to be a 4, which means we now know that this is a 3 and that this is a 4. If I now go along to this end column, I can see I only have 1 gap left. I've got 1, there's no 2, I've got 3, 4, 5 and 6. So I can put my 2 in. Okay, so let's have a look at this grid here. I have the numbers 3 and 5 missing. Now at the moment, I don't have any other clues, so I'm going to write 3 and 5 inside and wait to see if any other clues pop up as I go on. Okay, let's look at this grid here. I have the numbers 1 and 6 missing. 1 and 6. Now if I look up and down in this row, there's no 1 or 6. I look across, there's no 1 or 6. Let's go to this one. If I look down, there's a 1 there. That means this can't be a 1. This must be a 6, which means this can't be a 6. This must be a 1. Okay, we're getting closer now to finishing the grid. Let's move up to the top of this column here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So all I've got left is 5 and 6. I'm going to look along. There's no 5 or 6 here. I'm going to look at this one along. There's a 6 here. That can't be a 6 then. That must be a 5, which means this must be a 6. Okay, let's look up this row. I've got 1, 2. There's no 3 or 4. And I've got 5 and 6. So this could be a 3 or a 4. So I'm going to go to this cell here and look across. I have a 4 here. If I have a 4 here, that means this can't be a 4. This must be a 3. So if this is a 3, this must be a 4. Now that I have this 3, if I move along to this, which is what we wrote earlier, I know that can't be a 3, so that must be a 5. And if that's a 5, this must be a 3. And we've solved it. Before we solve it, we check each grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. and then you would check every column and you would check every row. Okay, in this type of problem, we are not going to start by looking at gaps because there is only a gap of 4 minimum in any of the rows and columns. So I'm going to start by taking each number and looking at where they could possibly go. And I'm actually going to record possibilities. So if I look here, there's a 1 in this column and a 1 in this column. So if I go up, I know that both these columns are out. So I'm going to write in 1 and 1. If I go to another grid, this row is out because of this row is out, this cell is out. So I'm going to write in my 1 and my 1. If I go up here, that is out because of this, and this blocks these two out. So my 1 could go here and here. I'm now going to go on to my number 2. I've got a 2 here which blocks all of that out, and a 2 here which blocks all of that out. Now that leaves me 3 places. 2, 2 and 2. Okay, moving on. 2 is blocked out there and 2 is blocked out here. 2, 2, 2. I don't have many other places where it's going to be useful to block it out. I don't want to write it in every single cell, but I want to try and, if I've got 3 or less possible places, I will jot it in. I'm going to move on to the number 3. I don't have many number 3s, but there's 1 here which will block this out, 1 here which will block all of that out. So my 3 could go anywhere in the top. Let's go down. No, my 3 will knock all of this out. So there's a 3 here and a 3 here. So actually this 3 knocks that out, that 3 knocks that out. My 3 could go anywhere down the middle here. Okay, let's go to the number 4. 4 knocks all of this out. This 4. That 4 knocks that out. That 4 knocks that out. 4 could go there or there. So are you seeing how I'm using the numbers to eliminate places where the numbers could go in other cells? So this 4 blocks out these 2 squares. So 4 could go there or there or there. I'm just writing a little mini one in the corner. I am going to move on to number 5 because I don't think there's many other places where my 4 can be very helpful. Because I looked up into this top grid here, the 4 blocks this out and this, but then that leaves me with quite a few spaces. So I'm going to move on to number 5. So 5 here will block this out. My 5 here blocks that out, and my 5 here blocks that out. Actually, that helps me to find that 5 definitely goes there. There's also a 5 missing here. So this 5 blocks all of that out. That 5 blocks that out. That leaves me with 3 places. This 5 knocks that out. This 5 knocks that out. It's 2 places where my 5 could go. I think I can find one more 5. This 5 blocks these 2 spaces out. So 5 could go here or here. Let's move on to number 6. So this number 6 is going to block all of this out, which means 6 could go here or here. Now, if 6 could only go there, that means 6 is definitely in this column. So that means that 6 will not be in this column here. And because there's a 6 here, it won't be in this column either. It only leaves one place for our 6, which is there. So even though we didn't find the 6 in this grid, we do know it's definitely in that column. So use things like that as another clue. Okay, I don't think there are many other clues for 6. 6 won't be in that column. and 6 won't be in this row. So there's 3 places where a 6 could be. I'm going to move on to my number 7 now. So I can see a 7 here is going to, it can't be here. This 7 can't be here, so it can only be there. Again, this 7 is going to block all of that out. This 7 is going to block all of that out. That only leaves one place for a 7. Let's look here. 7 can't go here. That actually leaves 3 places for a 7. 7 can't go anywhere here or anywhere here. So that leaves 3 places for a 7. 7 can't go anywhere here, and it can't go anywhere here. That actually only leaves 1 place for a 7, which means I can rub out my 7s in the top row in this grid here. Okay, let's go to number 8 now. So I've got a number 8 here. If I go across, that eliminates this, that 8 eliminates that, this 8 eliminates that. So I've only got 1 place for an 8, which is there. This 8 now eliminates all of this. That 8 eliminates all of that. So there's only 2 places for an 8. I don't think we have enough clues for eliminating anything else. That 8 would knock these 2 out. So I've got 3 places for an 8. Let's move on to our 9s. So I've got a 9 in the bottom and a 9 in the top here. So bottom and top rows are out. So that means my 9 has to go in the middle. So 9 is in my middle row. I've got another 9 here in my end row, which means I've only got this space left for a 9. If I move along here now, 9 blocks that out. This 9 blocks that out. So 9 can only go here or here. Going to this 9, that blocks that out. And this 9 blocks that out. So 9 can only go there. Now I've got that 9 can't go there, can't go in the middle because of this, and it can't go here because of that. So there's 2 places my 9 can go. Where else am I missing a 9? I'm missing a 9 in this one, but there's 4 possible places. Okay, let's look at this row here. What's missing? It's just the number 2, so that means 2 must go here. And if we look at this grid, what are we missing? We're missing the number 2 and 4. I can't see any 2s or 4s to the left or above, so I'm just going to write 2 and 4 in there and leave that there for a moment. Now let's look up this column here. This is telling me that a 1's missing. I know a 2 and a 4 is missing as well. So 1, 2 and 4. Here it could be 1 or 2 because there's a 4 here already. And here it could be 1, 2 or 4. Again, this grid's only got 3 places. This clue here is telling me that 1, 2 and 4 are missing in this grid. If I go to this place on my grid, it can't be a 1 because there's a 1 there. It can't be a 4 because there's a 4 there. So this must be a 2. If this is a 2, then this has to be a 1. And if this is a 1, this must be a 4. If this is a 4, this must be a 2. And if this is a 2, this must be a 4. Can you see how it starts to unravel a thread and we start being able to solve other problems? Let's check this column. What am I missing? I'm missing a 3, a 6, and a 7. So here, there's a 6 here. This could be a 3 or a 7. Here, it could be a 3, 6 or a 7. And here, it can only be 3 or 6 because there's a 7 here. Okay, so we're starting to fill up some gaps and get some clues in now. Let's take a look elsewhere on our grid. I'm drawn to this grid because there's only 3 gaps. What's missing in this grid is the number 3, the number 5, and the number 7. And looking at the rows and columns above, any of those could be a 3, 5, and a 7. Actually, this one has a 5 down here, so that can only be a 3 or a 7. Okay, now earlier on I'd written an 8 and a 9 in here, but there's a 9 there, so I'm going to cross my 9 out. Let's pick a number, just a random number, and check it again. Let's go with the number 4. So I've got a 4 here, and I've got a 4 there, and I've got a 4 here. Okay, I don't have anything else. The 4s can only go there. Don't have any other clues. I've got a 4 here, which blocks all of that out. A 4 here, which blocks all of that out. That gives me quite a few options. This 4 blocks these 2 out. That 4 blocks that out. Okay, so there's 2 places where a 4 could go in this bottom grid. Okay, I'm going to look at my bottom grid here. Even though it's got quite a few gaps in it, I'm going to have a think about this row and what numbers are missing from it. So I've got my number 1 here, and I know that 2 is missing from this row, but I can see that 2 is here, which means it can't be in any of these 2. That tells me that 2 has to go there. So that's given me another clue. I also know that my number 3 and my number 8 are missing. So if I look, these 2 have to be 3 or 8. I can see there's an 8 there. So 8 has to go here, which means 3 has to go there. Okay, so that's led me to more clues. If I look at my bottom row, 1, 2, 3, the number 4 is missing, but it can't go here because of this. The number 6 is missing, which could go in all 3. And the number 9 is missing, which can only go in the outer 2 because the middle one has a 9 above it. So I'm starting to write my possibilities in. If I look at my top row here, the number 1 is missing, which could go here or here, here or here. I've got 2, the number 3 is missing. There's a 3 there, so it can go here or here or here. Oh, it can't go in this one because of this 3. So it can only go here or here. My number 4 is missing, and that can only go here or here or in these 2. I've got the number 5. Number 6 is missing, so that could go here, here, here or here. And I have 7. My number 8 is missing. That could go there. It could go there or there. And my number 9 is missing. And my number 9 can't go in there because of that. Can go in there. Can't go in there because of that. It could go here. And it could go here. Now, if I look at this grid again, at the bottom, there's only 3 possible numbers that go in these 3 bottom, 4, 6, and 9, which means 4, 6, and 9 have to sit in that bottom row, which means they won't be in this top row. So I can rub out 4, 6, and 9. And what that does is in the middle here, it only leaves me with 1 possible number. So that tells me that that is 8. And then that means I can rub out my 8 here and rub out my 8 here. And actually, there's already an 8 in this grid, so it couldn't have gone in there anyway. I now know that these 2 are only 1 or 3, and these are only 4, 6, or 9. Now, if I look back at this, I've also written in the 1 could go here, but it actually can't because there's a 1 here. So I'm going to rub that out, and that 1 can't go there either. Let's just double check this grid. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 is missing. 4 can only go in these two. I've got a 5, 6 can only go in these two. I've got a 7 and an 8, and 9 can only go in this middle one here because there's a 9 here and here. So actually this must be a 9. I've only got 4 and 6 left, and I've got a 6 there and a 4 there. So I know that these are 6 and 4. So I've completed another grid. Just looking up here, I've got my 7s, 3s, 2s. Just having another look at my 7s. 7 blocks this. This 7 blocks this. 7 could have gone here or here, but there's a 7 here. So 7 has to go here. So that's another one here completed. So if I look at this column now, my numbers that are missing are 2, which can go here. It can't go here, and it can't go here because of that. So it must be here. So looking at this row again, this column again, I've got the numbers 3 and 7 missing, but there's a 3. Oh, I haven't got 3 and 7. Let's just check this because there's a 7 here. 1, 2, 3 is missing. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is missing. So it's 3 and 8 that are missing, but there is an 8 here. So that means that's a 3, and there's a 3 here. That means that's an 8. Because of this 3, I can rub out these 2 3s. As there's only 2 possibilities, I know that 5 and 7 are going to go here. So for this column, the numbers I have missing are 1 and 3. So I'm going to rub these out. It's 1 and 3. There's a 3 here. So that must mean that's a 1, and that's a 3. I'm going to rub this 3 out, and let's just check this top row. The numbers 1 and 5 are missing. There's a 1 here though already, so that must be a 5, which means this must be a 1. Okay, we're starting to reduce our gaps. Let's look in this grid. The numbers we've got missing are 4 and 6. There's a 4 here, so that must be a 6, which means that must be a 4. And this row now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The number 8 is missing, so I've put the number 8 in there. It means everything below it cannot be an 8. So I'll rub that 8 out. Let's check our 8s. No 8's there. No 8's there. No 8 there. So this has got to be an 8. So let's check this column. We've got 1, 2. We've got the numbers 3 and 6 missing. And there's nothing to eliminate them. So either of those could be 3 or 6. Let's look at this row. The numbers 5 and 6 are missing. Well, there's a 5 here. So that's got to be a 5. And that's got to be then be a 6. Okay, where else have we got some small gaps? Well, here I've got 2, 4 or 5, but there's a 2 here and there's a 5 here. That means that can only be a 4. And if that's a 4, that has to be a 6. If that's a 6, that has to be a 9. And if these are 6 and 9, this has to be a 4. I'm going to look at this square next. I'm going to look to the left, right, up and down to check what numbers it could be. So I've got 1, it could be a 2. I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. The only possible number it can be is 2. So this one here, if I rub out the 2, I've only got a 9 there. Let's just check. There's already a 9 here as well. So if I rub that out, what could go here? 1, 2, could be a 3. 4 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. This has to be a 3. If that's a 3, this has to be a 1. If that's a 1, this has to be a 3. And let's go to these squares here. Let's check what these could possibly be. Can't be a 1, can't be a 2, can't be a 3 or a 4. Let's rub out our 4. Could be a 5, can't be a 6, can't be a 7 or an 8. Could be a 9. So that's a 5 or a 9. I'm just going to look along this row because I can see 5, 7, 5, 9, 3, 7. If I can't put a 3 in this row because of that, and I can't put a 3 there because of that, that's got to be a 3 there. Which means this has got, I know that could still be a 5 or a 7. Okay, so that can't be a 3, can it? Okay, there's a 3 here. So let's check that again. What's missing from this row? We've got a 1, 2, a 3, a 4. 5 can't go here because of that. It can only go here or here. We've got a 6. A 7 could go here, can't go here, could go there. An 8 we've got, and a 9 can't go there because of that. Can't go there because of that. So this has to be a 7, which means this has to be a 5, which means this has to be a 9. So if we look here, this can't be a 3 because there's a 3 here. So this has to be a 6, and this has to be a 5. If this is a 6, this must be a 3. And as I've got a 3 and a 7, this must be a 6. And there, oh, we've nearly solved it. One more over here. There's a 5 here. That must be a 7. So the last thing you need to do is check each grid. So you need to check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and go through each grid, just double checking that you have not repeated any digits. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So once you've done that for each grid, you then have to just double check it for each row and column as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All the grids are fine. Then you check all of your columns and you check all of your rows. But hopefully you've got some tips on some different strategies. So check each number individually, check for gaps in the rows, check for gaps in the grids. Repeat, go back and try it again. Write in your possibilities, rub out the possibilities when you found solutions for other squares. Whatever you do, don't give up, stick at it. There is always a way to find another number, but it does take lots of perseverance. So it's a really, really good skill for developing your resilience, which means how able you are to stick with a problem despite it feeling like it's getting really challenging. Okay, I'd love to know how you got on. Download the free Sudoku book, and if you look at challenges 3 and 4, they're more complicated. This example here is similar to the game 4. There's 2 games at level 4 which are more challenging. They've got more gaps in the grids. So give that a go and let me know how you get on. Why not have a go at creating your own Sudoku puzzle for other people to have a go at solving? Now, this is actually harder than it seems. Start by making your answer key. So if you take a blank grid and try and arrange your symbols, your shapes, your numbers, even your letters into the grids. So with the 4x4 grid, you have 4 different numbers or symbols or shapes. With the 6x6 grid, 6 different numbers, symbols or shapes. And with the 9x9 grid, it's 9 numbers, symbols or shapes. So make sure you rearrange those different numbers or symbols so that they only appear once in every row, in every column, and in every grid. So just a reminder, it should only appear once in every row, in every column, and in every grid. Once you've created your answer key, then you want to duplicate it. So copy it and then decide which ones are you going to remove. Now have a little think about whether or not you're leaving enough clues. So there must be enough clues that someone can solve it. I'd love to see some of your creations. So if you've made a great Sudoku puzzle that you'd like other people to solve, then please send it to me at info@pocketprivatetutor.co.uk or send it to me via Facebook or Instagram, and I'd love to share your posts for other people to have a go at solving. To download our Sudoku ebook, check out the link in our title description. For more lessons, activities and past SATs questions that relate to the Year 6 National Curriculum, search for Pocket Private Tutor in the app stores. It's completely free to download and it covers all of the learning objectives in the whole of the Year 6 National Curriculum, and it also links to past SATs questions.